Okay, let's dive into what is basically a masterclass in suspense. We're going to break down how a simple story about a beach rental creates this palpable fear, not with what it shows you, but with what it says. Let's see how dialogue alone can be way more terrifying than any monster.
So right off the bat, the film throws us completely off balance. It starts with the words, "1 week later." We're just dropped into the end of a story with absolutely zero context. It creates this immediate disorientation and makes you ask, right? 1 week later, then what?
And then bam, we get our first real clue. It's this hostile kind of cryptic command that anchors the whole story to this one location. Leave my beach. I mean, who is saying this and why are they so possessive? The mystery is officially on.
And just like that, the narrative yanks us back in time. So let's rewind and see how the film, so carefully, so meticulously, builds the tension step by step to get us to that really disturbing, unexplained ending.
You know, every great horror story starts with a foundation of normalcy, something we can all relate to, and then it just cracks that foundation with one single unsettling detail. And this story? It's a perfect example.
And here it is, the core of the conflict, the classic forbidden door. It's a simple house rule that immediately gets your mind racing, right? It sparks curiosity, but also this deep sense of dread. Why this one room? What's in there? And just like that, the story has its hook in you. So our protagonist, she's trying to settle in, but of course, her piece is broken. The first piece of this puzzle doesn't come from something she sees, but from something she hears, which, let's be honest, is a way more effective tool for building that creepy suspense.
So what does she do? She does the logical thing. She contacts the host, looking for a totally rational explanation for what she's hearing. She's really trying to convince herself, just as much as the host, that there's nothing to freak out about.
All right, so this is where things get really interesting. The host's response becomes a key element in building that psychological tension. This is where the story shifts from just a simple mystery to something a lot more sinister.
Okay, look at this. You can see this huge gap between the guest's direct experience and the host's excuses, which are getting flimsier by the second. She hears a child almost inside, but the host is like, oh, it's the neighbors, maybe the old vents, could be rats. None of it adds up, and that's what creates that creeping suspicion.
And then the host's tone just completely changes. It goes from dismissive to this direct, almost threatening command. This isn't friendly advice anymore, it is a straight-up warning. And the tension, it just shoots through the roof.
So up until now, this whole thing has been between the guest and the host, right? But now the story does something really clever. It brings in an outside perspective, basically confirming that her fear isn't just in her head.
This validation from the pizza guy is so important. A totally neutral third party is genuinely surprised that anyone is even renting this house. That one little comment confirms the danger is real, and that this house has a history. It's not all in her head.
So if you look at how this is built, you can see how methodical it is. The story is building its terror brick by brick, moving her from a state of internal doubt to having her fears externally confirmed. Every step is logical and just tightens the screws. Okay, so her fears are now validated, and the whole dynamic just flips. The subtext is gone, nobody's being polite anymore, and the conflict just explodes into this direct confrontation over the phone.
Our protagonist, she is just done playing games. She flat out accuses the host of a serious crime, forcing the entire issue into the open and raising the stakes to a whole new level.
Now, the host's response here is incredibly telling. Think about it. There's no denial. He doesn't even try to prove the room is empty. Instead, it's just this immediate panic order to get out of the house. I mean, how suspicious is that? Why not just say, you're wrong, let me prove it? The only reason you wouldn't is because there is something to hide.
But she's not backing down. She stands her ground. At this point, she is all in. She's pushing past the point of no return, determined to uncover the truth, no matter what the consequences are. And here it is, the final, undisguised threat. The whole friendly Airbnb host mask is completely gone. This is just a raw, desperate warning, which pretty much confirms that something truly terrible is connected to that room.
All right, here we go. The climax. All that tension that's been building up has to go somewhere, and our protagonist is now stuck, facing a choice based on some terrifying and completely conflicting information.
So she's caught in this impossible situation. Two opposing commands, a dire threat from the person outside the door and a desperate plea from the person inside the door. Who do you believe? The one trying to keep it shut or the one who sounds trapped behind it? And this plea from behind the door, which sounds like a child in distress, well, that's the final push. It just preys on her empathy, on her sense of justice, and it forces her to act.
In that moment, she makes her choice. She completely defies all the warnings and all the threats because she's determined to uncover the truth and help someone she believes is in danger.
The host arrives, but it's too late. And that horrified, panicked question, "What have you done?" That's the real reveal. It confirms the absolute catastrophic nature of her choice. She wasn't saving someone. She was unleashing something.
And that right there is the genius of this narrative. The film never actually shows us what was behind the door. See, the true terror isn't in seeing the monster, but in the knowing. Knowing a terrible, irreversible mistake has just been made, and we're left to imagine the horrifying consequences all on our own.